Not everything invisible is hidden. There are eyes that do not look outward but inward, silent pupils that guard secrets older than history. In the forgotten folds of time and tradition, there exists a technique, forbidden by dogma, repressed by fear, capable of igniting the flame of the inner eye. It is not magic nor superstition. It is the lost art of seeing beyond the evident, crossing the threshold where consciousness stops obeying and begins to remember. This journey is not for spectators. It is for those ready to stop looking and start seeing. Before we begin this video, don't forget to subscribe and give it a like. Imagine that since the dawn of time, there was an eye that didn't look outward but inward. An eye that didn't need light to see because its vision was vibration, intuition, deep memory. That eye was revered by cultures we now call ancient, yet they knew more of the invisible than we know of the visible. They called it Ajna, the command center. They represented it as the Eye of Horus, the all-seeing eye. They hid it in symbols, geometries, rituals, and later, they silenced it. Because seeing with that eye is not seeing more. It's seeing differently. It's seeing what some would rather remain unseen. That which breaks the spell. That which reveals reality is not what it seems. That behind every form lies an intention, behind every word a vibration, behind every system, a design. And that design does not always seek your freedom. That's why the third eye was sealed. Not with chains but with noise, with distraction, with fear, with programming. We were taught to look outward, to trust what could be measured, touched, bought. But something inside us never forgot. Something inside you still remembers. That memory is what brought you here. Not by coincidence but by resonance. Because the third eye is not activated by curiosity, it awakens through calling. And that calling begins with a question you cannot ignore. Is this I see all that there is? The cultures that protected it knew that opening this eye was dangerous. Not because it harmed but because it freed. Because one who sees with the eye of the soul can no longer be manipulated, can no longer be deceived, can no longer be lulled asleep. That's why Egyptian sages encoded its form in the Eye of Horus, a map of the human brain pointing directly to the pineal gland. Why yogis drew serpents rising along the spine, awakening the internal fire that reaches Ajna. Why Christian mystics spoke of the single eye that fills the body with light. It wasn't poetry, it was instruction. It was warning. It was legacy. And now that legacy touches you. Not as a story to be told, but as a vision to be remembered. Because the third eye is not a tool, it's a door. And once crossed, there is no turning back. What was hidden begins to reveal itself. What seemed normal becomes strange. What you once ignored, now speaks. This chapter isn't a lesson. It's a threshold. And if you've arrived here, it's because something within you has already begun to see. They say the third eye does not open with formulas but with fire. Not fire that burns but fire that reveals. And that revelation begins in silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence that arises when the inner noise stops. When you finally cease chasing borrowed thoughts and sit before yourself, maskless, unhurried. There, in that instant, the technique begins. It's not complex, it doesn't require secret initiations or esoteric rituals. It only asks for three things: intention, breath, and focus. Intention is the calling. It's not enough to want to see. You must want to remember. Because the third eye doesn't show something new, it reveals what was forgotten. What always lived within but was buried by systems, fear, and distraction. Breath is the bridge. Inhale to 4. Hold 4. Exhale 4. Empty 4. Repeat. It's not just air. It's rhythm. It's code. It's the dance that opens the lotus between your brows. Focus isn't mental concentration. It's vibrational presence. You bring your attention to the center of your forehead. Imagine a violet light. It doesn't matter if you see it. Feel that it's there, pulsing, spinning, watching from within. And then it happens, not like lightning, not like a dazzling vision, but as a subtle certainty, a gentle pressure, a tingling, a whisper that doesn't come from outside, it comes from you, from the you that has always known. You start noticing things, not new things, things that were always there but now have texture. The words of others sound different. They carry vibration, hidden intention. You see when someone smiles but their energy weeps. You feel when a place embraces or rejects you, without words. Your body becomes a radar, your soul an interpreter. And the dreams shift. They become lucid, not because you control them but because you understand them. They're no longer nighttime chaos. They're messages, mirrors, maps. You awaken with phrases you don't know the origin of, but that resonate as if they were your own. Symbols, numbers, colors, and you begin to write them down. Not to collect but to decode. Because the universe speaks in metaphors and your third eye is the translator. But not everything is light. Shadow arrives too. To see more is to face what you avoided. Your patterns, your wounds, your masks, and those of others. The spiritual ego emerges. Feels special. It believes it's enlightened. And here lies the real challenge. Not to get lost in the vision. Not to use it to stand out but to serve. Because the third eye is not a trophy. It's a compass. And if you don't walk where it points, it dims. It may open too quickly. And that brings vertigo, insomnia, anxiety, disconnection. That's why you must ground, breathe, walk, feel your body, practice balance. Because vision without root becomes escapism. And this path isn't for running, it's for inhabiting deeply. So if you felt that pressure in your forehead, if your dreams speak to you, if synchronicities multiply, you're not imagining, you're remembering. And that memory is the beginning of a new way of seeing. Not with eyes, with soul. When the third eye opens, not everything revealed is light. Shadow appears too, not as threatening darkness, but as the part of you you hadn't dared to face. To see more means to feel more. It liberates, yes, but it also unsettles. That's why this path requires anchoring, inner protection, and constant practice. Because when sensitivity rises without grounding, it can overwhelm. The root chakra becomes vital. Without earth, vision becomes flight. Practicing balance with conscious breathing and ritual silence helps sustain clarity. It's not a complex technique, it's consistency. A few minutes at dawn or dusk, focusing the brow and breathing, as if cleaning the lens of an inner camera. Soon, you notice your surroundings affect you more. What you consume, hear, who you speak with, all vibrates. And your third eye registers it. Keeping a journal of symbols, repeated phrases, colors helps decode the messages. It's not superstition, it's language. Because the universe speaks in metaphor and you've begun to understand. But seeing isn't enough. You must act. Something dims you, move. If something drains you, protect it. Inner vision doesn't separate you from the world, it commits you more deeply to it. It requires energetic discernment, vibrational cleansing, and above all, presence. Because this new perception transforms your way of living. And remember, you're not seeing outward. You're seeing through yourself. Each message, each sensation, is a reflection of the soul. Don't fear what you uncover. Embrace it. Because this gaze isn't just yours. It's spirit awakening to behold itself through you. And once you've seen, there's no return. You didn't just activate a gland. You activated a new way of inhabiting reality. What was forbidden no longer frightens. It becomes symbol, testimony, doorway. Your inner vision doesn't distance you from the world. It reveals it. Now you know there is language in silence, signals in chaos, and direction in the invisible. The third eye is not the end of a path, but the beginning of many. Where once there was destiny, now there is design. Where there was obedience, now there is ritual awareness. You've crossed the threshold, and the gaze can no longer retreat. As always, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and give it a like. See you in the next one.